Matt, I know you're upset, but I disagree. I don't think Goddess of Victory Nike is a Game of the Year nomination this time around. I mean, it's good. Don't get me wrong.
You're right. It's damn good.
And the expansions this year, which you've been talking to me about endlessly, and the new character models and the new jiggle physics and all that. And I'm like, okay, Matt, we get it. You like the game, but I don't think it deserves to be on the nominations list, you know? And that's just me. That's just me disagreeing with you, but you know,
we can agree to disagree.
Yeah.
You know, it's all personal opinion at the end of the day.
I'm going to play that game one day. I'm just going to get it on the iPad.
You'll have to let me know how it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to see my wife do a double take, put it up on the iPad.
What are you playing right now? Hmm? There's kids around.
Yeah, I know. I can't do any of that stuff as a dad now. I have to be responsible and whatnot.
Yeah.
So
I'm assuming the Game Awards have been announced.
Yeah, well, some of the nominations, I don't know if
the nominations, that is.
All of them have been announced or if just whatever the front runners are. But some of the games I had to literally Google because I was like, what is this?
Okay.
But, you know, I don't play everything out there. So I'll be curious to know if you've played all of these games. Did you play Astrobot?
No, I did not, but I should.
Yeah. Okay. Did you play Balatro?
Balatro? No.
Balatro?
It's a card game.
Yeah.
But no.
Roguelike.
I've heard it's very,
game.
Very good. And I should.
Yeah.
It has a poker aesthetic, and I just don't know how to play poker. Granted, apparently you don't need to know anything about poker to play it, but it has a poker aesthetic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had heard about it, but I didn't know it was such a massive hit until I just looked it up and was like, oh my God, it's got like 50,000 very positive reviews on Steam. People are like going nuts about it. So I get that. Poker is a fun formula, playing with that formula and turning it into a roguelike where you can deck build, which seems insane. It's like cheating in poker or something. So that sounds cool. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is on there.
Played that. Yeah.
Black Myth Wukong, which I think we're not surprised about being on that list.
Yeah.
The Elden Ring Shadow of the Erd Tree is on there.
I know that they announced like a couple days ago that he was like, yeah, there could be DLC for Game of the Year. And people are like, what? And my first thought is, because he wants to nominate Elden Ring DLC. So I'm not surprised that that's on there at all.
I'm glad that they added DLC as a category because really this is how game development goes. They spend all this time building the tools to make the game, and then they spend like a third of that time building the actual game when they're like, we have all the tools now. Let's make the missions and the story and stuff really quick. And then the DLC is like, we've got all the tools, guys. Let's just build stuff. And DLCs can be fantastic because of that.
They can be fantastic, but I think it should be their own category. I don't know if it should be Game of the Year category.
Yeah.
Like if there was a DLC of the year kind of a thing, then sure. But
then you have to lump everything into the DLC of the year. Yeah, maybe I could see that. Best DLC potentially.
There's like some great games to have. I loved, Elden Ring is probably one of my favorite games of all time. I love it.
Yeah.
DLC also fantastic. Did not hit the same for me, and I don't think it deserves Game of the Year.
Yeah. Well, and also like maybe Goddess of Victory Nike would have been nominated if they had that DLC category because it didn't come out this year, but it had DLC that came out. So
what is the DLC called? Do you know?
For Goddess Nike of Victory?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we have the bigger bust edition, the less clothing expansion. It doesn't add content, it actually subtracts content where they're like, oh, you know what, like this bikini is kind of big, why don't we take some fabric out of it?
Of course.
So it actually makes the install smaller when you get that DLC. The textures are smaller, less polygons. It's good. Yeah. But you know better than I do.
Of course.
Yeah. We should, because we play that competitively, actually. What's your rank right now? Are you diamond
You're still
yet?
going with the bit. Aren't you doing? What's the
what
next
bit
one
are you talking about, Matt?
What do you mean? What bit?
Yeah. I'm kind of excited. Oh wait, there's one more on the Game Awards that we forgot about. Metaphor Refatazio. I don't know what that is. Do you know what that is?
It's a RPG. It's the guys that made the I'm having a huge brain fart right now. But it was a really big game. People loved it. A lot of people on my viewership chat said that it's their game of the year. It's amazing.
So it's an RPG? Is that what you said?
It is an RPG. Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to check that one out. I am out of all the things on the list. I think
They made the Persona series. Man, that was on the tip of my tongue, and I could not think of it. They made Persona, so it's a very, very popular developer. But you may not even know who Persona is or what the franchise is.
No, I'm not super familiar. I will say, out of all those nominations, the one that I want to play the most that I haven't played is the poker game.
Yeah, Balatro.
Like,
or however it's pronounced. Yeah,
I don't know. Balatro sounds right to me. That one just looks cool. I like card games. I like roguelikes. I'm ready for it. I did play the Spire roguelike one. That was fun.
Slay the Spire.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Out of all those, I'd probably give it to Wukong, but that's because that was the one that I played all the way through, and it was fantastic.
Well, and also it's it seems like the quantity of content and quality of content in that was just like on some tier that was just on the next level.
Yeah, it was a big game in terms of just the sheer amount of like animations and art is wild.
Mm-hmm.
There's no Helldivers 2.
Was that this year?
Yeah.
Wow. That is really surprising, actually.
No Helldivers 2 at all. Because that took over the gaming sphere for like a month.
Yeah. Well, and Atif in chat is saying it was cursed for being released in February, which is such a silly...
That's recency bias and everything, but...
Yeah, it's unfortunate because now people are like, oh, Helldivers, the balance, blah, 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 blah. And you're like...
it's like, that doesn't matter. Like, you can't take away that like 2 months where I was so addicted and like everyone was talking about Helldivers. Like, you can't take that away from me.
Yeah. Maybe they were... some of these titles, they're not really actually that indie. I guess the poker game is more indie, but
yeah, that would be the most indie game.
Yeah. Surprised that Warhammer isn't nominated, but I don't know.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I thought it was a solid game. I didn't think it was Game of the Year worthy, though.
Fair enough. I thought that the fanboys were going to come out and be like, it's the best Warhammer game ever.
It is legitimately probably one of the best Warhammer games ever. It's fantastic. It's really fun, but compared to the other stuff that came out this year, I think it was a little bit less.
I think that I'm curious to see what happens with because Stalker 2 is coming out. Mm-hmm. We're posting, I should say, I'm dropping this podcast a day early for reasons because I have a bit of content that I want to come out on the 20th. But
I wonder what that content could be.
I wonder what it could be. I wonder what it could be. But obviously Stalker 2 is going to come out this year, so. Is the Game Awards is it from January to like the end of December, or is there a cutoff period?
I think it's just anything after the Game Awards is when the new start date is. So
okay. So I think Stalker 2 will be in the running.
Nominated, yeah. Next year, 2025.
Oh, next year. When is the Game Awards?
So if the list is out right now, which I'm assuming it is, these are the games that are nominated, and there will be no more nominations this year. So even if Stalker 2 comes out, it will not be nominated for this year. It'll be next year if it does get nominated. Make sense?
Yep. Good. That'll give them plenty of time to fix the perfect game that it is when it launches. News that I can talk about related to Stalker 2 is NVIDIA published a blog post that I think kind of backfired a bit because I think they were trying to show how great their video cards are. And they're like, look how amazing our DLSS tech and our frame gen tech is on Stalker 2. And sure, the frames were impressive on like monster GPUs, running both frame gen and DLSS, but without those two things turned on, the frame rate was not great. And even at like lower resolutions like 1080 and 1440, it was an interesting benchmark to put out there because they had only very high settings, which I would imagine most people are going to dial back to try and get some performance.
Medium. It's probably more average. Yep.
They didn't post any of that. It was only like very high at different resolutions. And a lot of it was like decent cards were struggling to get 60 FPS, like 40 series GPUs. So if the game launch, and I don't know, like it's going to get patched up until launch day, so who knows what they can change, but
no, they're not going to be able to patch it. Are you kidding me? There's no chance.
No, I mean, most devs will do all the easy fixes as fast as they can, and then everything else is going to be like small, nuanced, iterative stuff that you might be able to squeeze some performance out of. So I got a feeling
it's really disheartening that there's all this push and emphasis on game devs to basically just allocate their optimization to frame gen now, where it's like, yeah, people have these cards. We don't have to make this optimized for at least 60. You know, it's like, what is even happening now?
It's been a huge battle between gamers and the industry for a while because the industry is just like, push the graphics further, make it look better in trailers, just make it look insanely stunning. And then optimization is sort of this afterthought. And they're like, well, if the visuals improve the marketing, we'll sell more. And then optimize. And I don't know who's making the push or if it's a byproduct. People are saying it's a byproduct of Unreal Engine 5, which is notoriously difficult to optimize. And especially if you turn on all the cool, crazy features. It's like, you just have to allocate 30 to 40% of your overhead, your performance overhead to these features now, where before you had some extra space. It's hard to know. I mean, the visuals and the gameplay and the stuff they've been showing on it, it looks stunning, right? Like it does look incredible, but if people are struggling to get 60 FPS, it's going to hit them hard at launch. So we'll have to see. I mean, it's not a problem for me because, I got a 4090.
Yeah, because I got a 4090 Ti graphics card.
Did you see the prices on the leaked prices on the 50 series? One of the retail sites posted the prices and then like removed it or whatever.
I heard it was like a 2,000, 2,400, something like that.
Yeah, around that price range.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot. Well, we don't have AMD competing in the high-end GPU market anymore. So NVIDIA's like, no competition, you say?
Where?
Pretty soon your GPU is going to cost more than a car, You're like, do I buy a car or do I
What's
buy
wild is that not that long ago, that actually would buy you a used car. Like, it's insanity.
Yeah, I think my first used car was $2,000.
Yeah.
I mean, granted,
I know
was
time
a
keeps
while
on slipping
ago.
Quick.
Yeah,
right.
Time keeps on slipping. Yeah. I was just a wee lass back then. I must have been probably 16 when I got that. So
it was like 50 years ago, right?
Yeah, so it was like 2 years ago when I got my car. A forest green Toyota Tercel, baby. Yeah, I couldn't keep the chicks away. They were chasing me down the street in that thing. No way. Nothing could break in that car because it didn't have anything. Didn't have AC. Didn't have, I don't think it had a CD player. It was bare bones back when you had CDs. But it worked,
and it got you from point A to point B.
Yep, thing never broke till my brother broke it. He, I gave it to him.
It never broke until it did.
I gave it him when I got my upgrade car, and he just didn't put oil in it. The oil light came on, and he was like, I'll just keep driving it.
It's like a guidelines.
Yeah. I'm still upset about that.
I can tell. You were 16. You're like, this was literally half a life ago.
That car would have gone forever. It's like, you ever see those little Toyota pickups that were made in like the 80s or something?
And they're the most reliable car ever made.
Yeah. You just change like one timing belt on it every now and then, and it just keeps going, That's what the little Toyota Tercel was. It never would have broke.
They literally don't make cars like they used to.
Yeah. Well, That's back when like it was handles to like roll down the window, so you didn't have to worry about an electric motor.
There was a lot of less true, but that's like the windows. So, but I hear you.
My car didn't have power steering, so I didn't have to worry about the power steering going out. You know.
Wow.
If you don't have an automatic transmission, you don't have to make.
You are old.
I mean, it was just bare bones. It was like the least amount of car you could buy, basically.
Yeah.
It's like one step down from this and you're getting a bicycle, you know?
Pretty much.
Yeah. Or a motorized scooter.
Not even power steering. God, that is ancient.
Yeah, but it was so light that it wasn't actually hard to turn the wheel. Like, oh, does it have power steering? I can't tell. The thing.
Or you were just jacked. You were just big.
No, a strong, you could feel the wind in that car going down the freeway and a gust would come along. You're like, whoa, turning it back onto the road.
Safe. That's what that sounds like.
Mm-hmm. So, tell me about Arc Raiders. That's what I really want to know about. I'm excited.
Yeah, it was unfortunate that we couldn't talk about it like last because I was under NDA. But I had a chance to play it. What would you like to know? What kind of how involved do you want me to get with this?
Well, first on the surface level, if you told somebody what Arc Raiders is, you'd be like, so it's another extraction shooter.
Another extraction shooter. And that's been the big, like, everyone's like, oh, I'm so disappointed it's no longer a looter shooter. And everything seems to be going extraction shooter. And I talk about this all the time where people are like, oh, there's so many extraction shooters. And I'm like, where are they? Mm-hmm. Because there hasn't been any big successful ones. Even the one that everyone references, the one that's like the beginning, Tarkov, isn't even in 1.0 yet. Yeah. So it's still a very fledgling.
And most people aren't playing it because who wants to just get stomped in Tarkov?
Right. So I do hear that people are getting a little. I know people are getting fatigued. Even to some extent, I'm getting a little bit fatigued because there hasn't really been any that have been able to do it well. So
and they don't really innovate that much, right? Each one comes out and you're like, so it's kind of like Tarkov, but more casual or in space. And you're like, I mean, do something crazy, guys. Come on.
Yeah. So this one is a lot like Tarkov in the sense that it is an extraction shooter. But what makes it different is that they're adding, because it was originally going to be a looter shooter, they were going to have a bunch of AI robots. I shouldn't say AI, just bots, right? that roam around, because AI comes with a different connotation now. And they are all very well animated, and they all have like a life to them that I think you will not really find in a lot of other these kind of games, extraction shooters. You know, you come across some scavs, we're like, oh, hey, there's a dude over there, bam, 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 and then they just die, right? It's very you've got these little drones flying around, and you can shoot their fans on the side, the thing that that lifts them up, and they'll like bob and weave as they're trying to right themselves. It looks fantastic. Yeah. Like I think they'll carry their momentum too, so it all feels real. There's these giant spider-like ones where if you shoot their legs, they'll stumble, right? Yeah. So you can clearly tell they're taking.
Those ones look freaky too. I don't want to get chased down by one of those things.
Yeah, they're pretty big. So what's neat is that because I'm assuming they took a lot of those assets and a lot of that time they put into making those feel really good for the looter shooter part. Like, well, we'll just use that in the extraction part.
It's not a hard pivot. Going from a looter shooter to an extraction, I would imagine they were able to just kind of change up some of the layouts of their maps, and they're like, now it's a extraction shooter,
What I really like about it is that it makes you feel like a scavenger. The entire premise of the game is that humanity has basically gone underground. These robot arc technology has kind of taken over the surface, and you are going up there through these elevators and things to try and scavenge around to find things for society, right? To sell, to help out, to build stuff so that people aren't just eating beans and rice. That was literally one of the quests that they had.
And beans and rice, the quest?
It was literally just trying to make it so people had different food options. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah.
And there is no eating and drinking, by the way, I should mention. So it's not like it's not Tarkov.
I like
where you
that.
Have to
That's
bring...
like the spice trade. It's like when spice became so valuable because people were like, wait, we can have flavor with our food, and then they're paying tons of money for it. And it's like, yeah, that probably would be a thing in the apocalypse too. You're like, just get me some seasoning.
Get me some cinnamon, boy.
Yeah.
I need that spice. What I really liked is it gives you this super cool dystopian futuristic vibe where, in like movies or in fantasy or, sci-fi, you've got those characters that are trying to actually scavenge and going from building to building while this like threat looms overhead. Well, you feel that while you're like looking around, making sure there's no bots up in the sky, and then running to your next destination, getting into the door, into the building. And there's other players as well doing the exact same thing, trying to not make any noise, because if you do shoot or you do come in conflict with someone, it is very obvious, like the general area of where you are. One of the key things I noticed is that when you get downed, shoots a flare up in the air, which will notify everyone that something happened there.
Yeah.
And it's to get people to come together and try and, get your loot. So
yeah,
that was one thing I noticed for sure.
It sounds like they're taking a lot of the staples, but it's all about the nuance that really sets this game apart, where it's like when Apex Legends came out and you're like, well, it's just another Royale, but they understood so much of the game mode and all the like little UI things that were like huge quality of life updates and all these like timing and pacing of things. And all of a sudden it was a huge hit. And you're like, oh, okay. Like sometimes it is about the nuance. So is this a game that's more nuance?
I think it's going to definitely appeal to a larger audience. And I love the atmosphere. I know that's probably not a big deal for many, but to actually feel like I am alone scavenging and I'm just trying the sound and audio in it is really good.
Yeah.
When it works. I did have a guy run down a hallway sprinting at Mach 5, and I did not hear him at all until he rounded the corner and shot me while I was looting. I was like,
nice.
Oh, that's not good. That's not good. So other than that moment, it really makes you feel like you are a scav. And I don't get that very often, especially for a multiplayer video game. That might disappear as you play and you get more accustomed, and then the facade kind of lifts and you see
it helps with the noise heavy games like Hunt Showdown, where you really do feel like you need to move quietly. Like don't hit the birds. You're telling teammates like, hey, there's crows over there. There's a horse over there. That kind of, and then you start skulking. You naturally want to start getting creepy and lurking around the environment. So that can help a lot with just building the feeling of
what I'm curious to see is how they're going to handle the progression and how they're going to handle it like long term, because you do get, if you use like just like a little pistol and it's not going to have a lot of armor penetration, and if you try to use that against a really big one of these really big robots, you're not going to penetrate it very easily and you're not going to be able to take it out. There are weapons that have better penetration, and so we see in the trailer there's like really large robots. And is that going to be on certain maps? Is it going to be in events? Like, is it going to be this natural progression where you start off on the easy maps and you make your way up and up and up and up to these, by the end, like it actually becomes like almost like a raid where you need multiple people to take out these giant robots. I don't know how it's going to work in that regard, but yeah, I am excited. Though I do have some critiques.
Yeah, let's hear them.
Pretty big ones.
Okay.
First of all, AI voice acting for like all the quests. At least it seemed that way. Ironically, the one that there's an actual robot merchant.
Yeah.
Like, and he was the most lifelike. I was like, that's kind of funny. But yeah, definitely felt like all the voices could have been, they were all just really wooden performances, but it felt very AI, which was like, ooh, okay. I know you guys did the finals and you had the whole voice thing for that. It's not working. The illusion is not. Like, yeah. So I was kind of let down by that.
That's unfortunate, especially with a big studio like that. I could understand trying to speed up game dev by even like using people in studio. If you've got a team of 100 people in an office, some
devs, yeah,
you can find some people that are probably pretty good at doing character voices and stuff. But it seems like they're adamant about pushing that tech forward. I do think we're only years away from them having it to the point where you are not going to be able to tell whether or not they use it.
Yeah.
But it sounds like they're still at the point where they're like, hello, stranger, and you're like, huh? Who talks like
there's
that?
moments where I'm like, is that AI? Is it not? Because that's why I don't want it. Because if it was a performance from an actor, I would feel kind of bad just to equate their performance to AI.
Yeah.
But it did feel very wooden. And
Steve from The Office is broken right now. He's just like, Matt thinks I'm a robot. He called me an NPC.
Yeah. The other thing is extraction feels rough. extraction is always something that is really tense in any extraction shooter, right? You get all this loot, you spend all this time, you want to get to the extract, and you don't want to die.
Yeah.
So in this game, they've got these elevators, and you have to call for them, which makes a ton of noise. And there's
who would design those things? They're like, all right, here's the plan.
Yeah.
We're gonna set off firecrackers as you wait for an elevator.
Practically,
good luck.
Literally, there's like sirens that go off. I mean, it's only within like a certain area where people can actually hear you. But if someone is nearby, they will hear you trying to extract.
Plus robots too, right?
Right, exactly. So the doors open on these, like, it's 4 doors, right? It's a box, right? So an elevator. So literally, then you have to go into this death box and then type on a computer to close the doors, which takes a couple of seconds, and anyone in the area can just shoot you in the back or throw a grenade. There's technically a little bit of cover. There's like a little box that kind of like, if they're like directly behind you, they won't be able to see you.
It sounds like a really brutal way to try and end your play session, where you're like, all right, good job surviving and doing all this hard stuff. And then they're like, now's the hard part. And you're like, what about the rest of it? Yeah.
Now there are little pods for solo people to be able to extract, but it requires a key. And I didn't play long enough to figure out how to get the key. I think it was like 10,000 in-game credits or whatever, which will probably be insignificant as you progress, right? Like, I'm sure once you get further on, that'll be like, but when you're first getting started as a solo, you don't have those keys, which means you have to go to the quote unquote group extracts.
That's tough.
And you're just, so I had one round where I heard someone extracting. I'm like, well, I'm right here. Might as well try to kill them. I kill them. I loot them. I'm like, well, it's time for me to extract. So I go to extract. And guess what happens? I get shot in the back. So I then go and I run away.
Forever.
I survive.
Yeah.
I run to another extraction. I try to go. I have like no heals at this point because I've had multiple firefights. I try to extract. Once again, someone is there and they kill me. And I'm like, this cannot.
That is super problematic.
Yeah.
It sounds like, though, that Embark has been pretty quick about being able to go, oh, wow, this mechanic isn't working, at least with the finals, right? Like they made a lot of changes with the finals. Mm-hmm. So this game is coming out. Is it coming out of early
2025, I think, but I don't know when. I'm not sure when.
Okay. So it sounds like they're going to have some time to make changes and feedback. And with an extraction like that, you could easily just turn off the sound, right? And then they can kind of find a happy ground, change the timing of it. That kind of stuff isn't hard to do. So it sounds like they'll have the tools to figure out how to balance that. But
and like I said, maybe the further you play and the better you get, and I understand the mechanics more, those little, as a solo player, because that's how I was playing, it won't be so bad because you'll have those nice little pods that you can just go in that are just personalized for solo players.
Yeah.
But that was my experience. I'm going to tell you guys my experience. And yeah. And also, and I get why, but they close too. These elevators have a countdown. So like, this elevator closes in 15 minutes. This elevator closes in 10 minutes. So by the end of a round, it could be one elevator.
Oh,
and so everyone, I'm like, I don't know. So I get trying to get people together, but the worst feeling is spending 30 minutes looting, getting to the extract, pressing the button, being on the little computer, one more second, and then the elevator is going to close, and you get grenaded by like 5 different people, and you're like, and then you just die. That will never be exciting. That will never be fun. It's like, you cannot convince me.
Yeah.
So,
that is kind of the weird challenge for doing an extraction shooter, because they're like, well, we want the excitement of a Royale, and you're like, yeah, but not a lot of people are joining the extraction shooter to get the Royale experience, Right. So they're like, how can we get everybody in one place and make it crazy intense? And you're like, yeah, but the value and the fun comes before that. And then the extraction can have intense moments, but don't make it have to be intense every time. Let me just get out, because when we play Hunt, the best parts of the round are usually the middle of the round. Every now and then you'll have a crazy mad dash to an extraction point, and it's a cool firefight, but I'm not like disappointed when we have a clean getaway in a round of Hunt. You know, you're like, no, that was a great round.
I really wish I had all this loot and I was able to have to fight over it for the very last 5 seconds of a round, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah.
I agree.
So hopefully they'll, based on their history with the finals and their ability to make changes pretty quickly, do a lot of testing and release a good product, it sounds like they'll have time to improve this. And this will be their first pay for access game, because the finals is free to play with paid DLC stuff.
Yeah.
This one's going to be a $40 title. So
I'm excited for it. I enjoyed my time. I am not under any illusions or delusions that it's going to, you know, be like the next giant thing. It could be. It very well could be. But I thought it was a fun little game. I've been looking for more of these style of games, and I'm excited.
Yeah, hopefully it's not too little at $40. You know, hopefully it's
hopefully it's got some heft to it.
Yeah, because that's like what wasn't Overwatch $40 when it came out.
Technically, yes, I think so.
Yeah,
but that was also a while ago, and it was multiplayer exclusive, and
times have changed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, cool. I am excited for that, and I hope that I'm excited for the studio. I just really think Embark's got a lot of good stuff going for them, and their whole philosophy, if you read it on their website, is about like creating a studio that can pivot and change and make meaningful changes quickly, as opposed to just getting locked into the AAA studio. Like, this is the plan for the game, and we will not deviate, even if the markets change or we realize the idea is trash or something. We're just going to ship it, you know?
Yeah, agreed.
And this game did that, right? They started off as a free-to-play looter shooter, and now it's a $40 extraction shooter. So, and you seem to be pretty happy with a lot of things about it. So I think that speaks well for their ability to hopefully pivot quickly. And
I don't think it's bad. It's definitely not bad.
Yeah.
From my experience.
Yeah. Cool. What do you think of, I have mixed feelings about Valve releasing this big ol' Half-Life 2 20th anniversary documentary on...
Oh, I didn't know they had a documentary.
Yeah, so it's kind of like this whole thing where they're sort of talking about Half-Life 2, and there's some interesting stuff in there with like Gabe kind of taking responsibility a bit for the failure of episode 3 and not pushing the franchise forward after that, and really just kind of dropping the ball with it.
Yeah.
And they showed some Half-Life 2 episode 3 content, like things that they were working on, you know, before it got canceled. And they have like an Arctic setting with it, and like ice guns and like interesting stuff around there. Everybody's kind of following it because obviously like Half-Life 3 win, you know, and all that, all the memes and whatnot. But it is weird for Valve to put out the documentary on it as opposed to just like a game. You know, I think.
Well, I think because they don't have a game. They literally, they're celebrating their 20-year anniversary, and it's like, well, I mean, we don't have anything, so sorry.
It's a great game, and I am really excited for the RTX remake of Half-Life 2. Like, that looks really incredible. But it's also just, it's not a new game, right?
No.
So other than Half-Life Alyx, which I know a lot of people liked a lot, and it is cool. It's a VR game. You know, they're pushing.
That's why I haven't played it, because I don't have any VR.
Yep, they're pushing a tech that not everybody's going to adopt, you know.
Which I actually think is why Half-Life Alyx got made over episode 3, because I think I heard from a headline he wanted to push innovation. He wanted to do something different. They wanted virtual reality is literally at the forefront of changing and innovation, which lines up with that philosophy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's just weird because they managed to integrate Portal to the Half-Life universe in a really cool and satisfying way, where you're like, this exists within that universe, and I can kind of, it all makes sense. And it's like, gosh, they really were building out such a cool, fun universe, and then they just didn't take it.
Then they stopped.
Yeah, then they stopped because Gabe was satisfied making billions of dollars
with his mega yacht fleet.
Yeah.
Do you hear he has a fleet of yachts?
Yeah.
A fleet.
Yeah, you told me. No, that sounds insane. It sounds like he's got more yacht. He's probably not even been on all of his yachts if he has that many. He's like, have I been on this yacht yet?
You're uber billionaire when you have yachts all over the world, because apparently it's a lot of effort, and it costs a lot of money to transport from to move them around. So you just keep them in ports around the world and then just fly there and then just experience that yacht.
He's actually saving money because now he doesn't have to rent some super expensive hotel room, in Milan or something.
Dude,
he's just got his yacht parked there.
Expensive to maintain.
Yeah. It's insane. I wish Gaben was, I don't know, a little bit more admirable with his spending.
Whatever.
I don't know, man. It's like Zuckerberg is buying that $300 million yacht craziness thing.
What is it with yachts? Is it just because it's the ultimate flex? I can go anywhere.
Well, Matt, if we were billionaires and we had billionaire friends and you're like, hey, check out this cool, what are you going to show them to impress them? Right? Are you going to show them your arts and crafts or something? They don't care.
They're hey, look at what my kid made. Look at this thing. Yeah, exactly.
They're not impressed by that. I show off my new virtual pinball table to impress my friends, and that works in my circle, right? That's a cool thing, right? But when you're billionaires, you're like, well,
Level Cap, are you buying things just to impress your
No, it's for me. But friends come over and they see it and they're like, that's pretty cool, Okay. It's like if somebody gets a Cybertruck and they're like, hey, come check out my Cybertruck. I'll hop in that and check it out because it's cool, right? It's the new cool thing.
Is it though?
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't buy one, but I would gladly.
Also, the Cybertruck, it's a little bit divisive, and some people love it, and then other people are like, this is the biggest eyesore in the world.
I wouldn't buy one. I would rather get something that's made more practically, and whatnot. But I wouldn't mind taking a ride in one and seeing it because it's the cool new thing,
it'd be
right?
Fun to experience it. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. And so, if you're a billionaire, yacht is your only thing and then if you're a mega billionaire, I guess you make your own rocket ship company, and you become a Bezos.
Or you have such a large yacht that you then pay the city to increase the size of a bridge so that you can get your yacht underneath the bridge.
Who did that one?
I'm pretty sure that was Bezos.
Was that Bezos?
Yeah.
It's look, I'll pay for the bridge update. You need to update the bridge anyway. It needs a refresh, so I'll just pay for it. We can get my yacht under.
I could be wrong, but yeah.
That sounds familiar. Somebody did that crazy thing. Yeah. When you got just that kind of money, when you
have more money than God, when
you're like, I want to go to space and NASA's not going to make me an astronaut, so I'll just build a rocket ship and I'll go on my own. Screw them.
Yeah, exactly.
When you got that kind of money, it's that's fun money right there. That's
probably going to be the new frontier for billionaires when you think about it, right? Because right now yachts are vessels on, because most people can't just hang out in the ocean.
Yeah, but rockets are really expensive. No,
I know. Well, that's why I said the future. I'm not saying tomorrow, which is technically the future. Yeah. Oh, space travel is going to be privatized and they're going to go crazy.
Will you go,
with
Matt?
it.
Will you go if you get an invite?
Bro, I'm afraid to get on a plane.
Yeah, you're white knuckling it on takeoff in a 747. We're in the air. Yeah, I don't know if you'd do so well in a rocket ship. You're what are the odds this thing explodes? Less than 5%.
I'm sure in 50 years it'll be completely normal. People be traveling to space and Mars, and it'll be a regular thing, and then it'll just be the normal thing.
Few more G-forces than you'll get in your airplane takeoff, but
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, then you're weightless, and hopefully that doesn't make you incredibly sick because you're going to be up there for a while.
Yeah.
Having
chunks floating around everywhere would be
how much would that suck if you got to 0G and you're like, well, this makes me throw up constantly, and how long are we going to be here? All right, a while.
Yeah, cool. You're not coming down.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hopefully there's tests for that. Oh, I guess they have, what they call the airplane that does the 0G dive that they train on?
something, probably vomit something.
The vomit comet. That's the nickname for it. Yeah, because people just puke.
Because you're literally just falling is what you're doing.
Yeah. There's that band that made a music video in 0G in that airplane. And I think everybody on the crew like threw up before they started filming.
Really?
Yeah. They had to do a bunch of dives and they're like, all right, everybody get your vomiting out now. And then we'll shoot the music video and try and look happy.
What's interesting is that it's because it's not 0G. It's you're just falling, I think, aren't you?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But it gives you the exact same sensation. Right. Because you're in a room and you're kind of...
That's also falling.
Yeah. So, yeah, everybody's just falling at the exact same rate.
Right.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It is cool that you can do that. All right. What's Soulframe? What is this?
Soulframe is the creators of Warframe.
Okay.
They made a game. It's very early. I think the NDA just broke. And
is it like a Dark Souls Warframe hybrid?
So they call it the soul part is interesting choice because everyone like you immediately goes, oh, it must be a Souls game. And it kind of is a little bit, but not at all.
Okay.
Okay. So it's like open world-ish where you're exploring this area. I think it's like the marshes or something. And there's a bunch of places of interest that you can go to and fighting enemies with kind of Souls-like combat where you kind of have to dodge and parry and, you have your normal melee attacks and stuff, but it's very bare bones right now.
Yeah.
But what's kind of neat about it and where they're going with it is there'll be a story. And I thought the story was actually kind of interesting. The very weird, very, very trippy.
Well, but so is Warframe. Warframe's very
it's
weird.
Definitely got that kind of aesthetic.
Yeah.
But you're like wandering around in sort of like a more medieval vibe where you're using melee but sort of still futuristic, and all of a sudden a spaceship shows up. You're like, oh, okay, so this is definitely blending genres for sure. They've got a dungeon system that is like Warframe where it is modular and it will be random each time, and you'll go on in and you'll probably take out a bunch of people, and once you clear the dungeon you'll get like a part for a weapon, and then if you get all the parts you can then craft the weapon. So it's going to be very similar to that respect, but more melee focused. Yeah. With this, it's going to be a melee game, and I wish I had more to say about it because it's so early on. But I at least think it's got an interesting foundation.
Does it take place in the same universe, or
that I'm not sure?
When you say it's made by the creators, is it like a different studio, or is it the same studio?
So the guys that were originally helming Warframe moved. It's still within their company, right? But they like just moved people over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yep. Well, I mean, they've got a hugely successful game, and so hopefully they can make another one. That'd be cool.
Yep. What I was impressed by already is that when I first saw the trailer, I thought it looked really bad. And most people thought was like, this trailer looks kind of ass, right? Like the characters are floating around everywhere. It like the combat doesn't look tight at all. Like it just looked really bad. And then they're like, oh yeah, bet. And then they've improved it already. So
cool.
If they are taking that feedback just off of like trailers and like player, because people are playing,
it's usually the opposite. Fantastic trailer, and then you play the game, you're like, oh, the trailer was a lie.
Yeah. So, still like this is pre-alpha.
Oh,
this is very, very early. So gotcha. I don't feel it's fair to like really critique it.
Is it in? How did you play it? Did you just get like invited to a thing?
I got invited from one of my viewers. Yeah, they gave me a key.
Okay. And does it just go through play sessions where they're like, it's open for a little while and you can play?
It's open I think right now. It's just always open now.
Okay. So it's like an early access thing, but an invite only?
Looks like it, yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. That's interesting. I'm glad more games are doing that as opposed to just early access. Everybody have fun. And then you're like, oh, this is alpha? Okay.
This is an alpha. What are we doing?
Yeah, you're like, I didn't know that this was going to be an alpha.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
The game I have been really enjoying, though, is Broken Arrow.
Oh, I saw that on the list, and I was like, do you mean the Tom Cruise movie about smuggling nuclear weapons from like...
No.
Okay.
Not that one. It is a real-time strategy.
John Travolta. There we go. Yeah.
It is a real-time strategy game, but set in like modern combat. So you have tanks, helicopters,
I know
jets.
this one. That looks cool.
Yeah. It's really hard. They have no onboarding like at all.
Typical indie RTS game where they're like, what do you mean you don't understand radar systems, modern radar technology? Come on. Doesn't everybody?
Yeah, so you'll be playing and you're like, I don't know what units to bring in. They're like, oh, Marines. Sure, I'll bring in some Marines. Oh, there's a tank. Yeah, sure, I'll bring in a tank. But what you don't realize is that the tank that you just brought in has absolutely no heat penetration whatsoever. And so when it goes against another tank, you're just going to get absolutely slammed into the ground. Not only that, we don't realize that vision is so unbelievably important that if you just do not see the enemy will literally just snipe you from long range and it's GG, you suck. So it is brutally challenging at the start.
Hopefully,
but once you kind of start to get like the groove, it's really fun to like pull off maneuvers and come in with like a, you bring your helicopters really low so they're hiding behind a building, and then their tank column comes down. Then you peek your helicopters out real fast. Their Hellfire missiles just rain down upon them. Then you scoot them behind the cover again to when their anti-air shows up. Really fun to pull it off.
Is it PvP or is it PvE?
PvP.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
so it's 5v5.
Okay, and there's no unit building. You just start off or what?
So it's really cool way of going about it. You've got a resource that continuously goes up, but it's dependent on how many units you have on the field. So if you have like a full army, you've got tons of vehicles, tons of units.
So the rich get richer?
No.
Oh.
They get less as time progresses. So if you've got like a full unit out and about, it will be you'll get very little of the resource per minute. Okay. But if you've got nothing because they just wiped you across the board, you'll get a ton of it relatively quickly, so you can reinforce and kind of get back into the action. It's a slow-paced game though, so it's not going to be like super fast. If you lose a lot of your units, you have really hindered your team significantly. So you really have to make sure that you're not getting stomped. But it's kind of a balance act where like it doesn't really, like the rich don't get richer in that respect. Yeah. Because they can't reinforce.
Does that game have nukes in it too?
It does, yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Which is terrifying when all of a sudden you just see your entire fortification just melt in front of you.
It's cool. Tactical nukes, man.
Yeah.
I saw the trailer for this and was like, this looks very cool. So that's cool that you're playing it and you like it. Tough on board, but that's pretty typical in these types of indie games where they're like, we love the concept, but this is going to be tough to teach it to you, or we're just not allocating our resources to a complex tutorial system because we want to make a better game. And if you are committed, you'll just have to figure it out,
Well, just to give you an example of how complex it is, there is anti-air. You've got infantry anti-air, you've got vehicle anti-air, and then you have high altitude anti-air. And you'll have some that can shoot high altitude, but they can't shoot like the ones that are low altitude.
Oh my God.
So you're like, why is my anti-air not shooting the helicopter that's literally right there? It's because it's not high, because it only shoots at things that are up in the sky, like high altitude. And but it doesn't tell you this. So you're just like, that's the kind of like nonsense you have to deal with as a new player.
What do you mean you don't understand the engagement ranges of a SAM site, Matt? Come on.
Yeah.
Everybody knows this. Yeah, that's
so
funny.
It can be very frustrating to start off with. Okay. And because it's 5v5, you'll have teammates that just leave and it's a 40-minute match. And so now it's like, oh, it's a 4v5 now. You're like, oh, cool. That puts us at a massive disadvantage.
Yeah. More games need a bonus system for joining into a game that's already in progress especially if you're joining the losing team. Like, more games just need a system that's like, oh crap, these guys are down. How do we keep them from just getting steamrolled? Let's bring a player in who wants to join a game that's already in progress and is already on the losing side. Give them some sort of XP bonus or something for opting into that, like that would be nice I think almost all games that have that type of mechanic need some way to get those players in.
Also just more penalizing of people who are leaving. Yeah. Just penalize them more. A
penalty and a reward system, right? Carrot and stick. I think you could find a good balance there.
Slap them around a little bit.
Yeah. Cyberbully a little bit.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
Your AI bot like says mean things to them. You're like, hey, dummy, what are you doing?
Hey, what are you doing, dumb? Why'd you leave, dummy?
Yeah, you suck. It'd be good.
That's why Susan left you. Whoa, Jesus Christ.
Oh my gosh. Did you see the streaming event of the year, Matt? I don't know if it was the biggest streaming event ever, but it was like the biggest streaming event, I think, on Netflix's history.
Oh, the fight. No.
The fight.
The fight of the century. No, I didn't. I was streaming at the time, but I heard it was awful.
Yeah, the 58-year-old Mike Tyson versus the influencer that everybody wanted to see get punched in the face. Yeah, Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. I watched it because actually we were turning on Netflix to watch Arcane, and the fight was on. We actually started with the fight before it, which was brutal. They had two women boxers go at it before Mike Tyson and Jake Paul, and they just beat each other to a pulp. Man, there was like a head gash on this chick's face that I was like, that needs stitches right now. It was
ASAP.
Yeah, and she just kept fighting, and you're just like watching, like it was right above her eyelid. And like the skin was just like hanging down over her eye. And you're just like, call the fight, dear God.
Yikes.
So that was fun to watch. And then, yeah, the fight between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul sucked. But
I think didn't he come out with an announcement like, hey, I'm proud of myself because in June, I almost died. I lost like 25 pounds and I'm just happy to be here. It's like, oh, well, that's great.
Yeah. But you could see it in the ring is the problem is he was in there and he was like moving around like he had a walker.
Like a 58-year-old man who's getting punched around.
Well, also whatever happened to him before the fight, his health stuff, I think that really knocked some of the speed out of him. So
probably did.
It was unfortunate. So it was tough to watch because you're like, nobody really likes Jake Paul. I mean, granted, he was pretty good about winning. And you're like, oh, this guy isn't just like showboating. He was like very like respectful to Mike. And it almost seemed like he was holding back a little bit to like just out of, I don't know, him being an idol of his. But in terms of fight quality, it was not great to watch. But also, it was so many people tuned into it. Netflix started to crash. Like it basically was crashing the live stream. And we're watching and the bit rate goes down and then just like pauses and crashes.
And they advertised it for about a year. Like the Paul Tyson fight.
Well, it kept going because Mike had like the health problems. And so they had to delay the fight. Oh,
is that the reason why it got delayed? Okay.
Yeah, so they had to massively delay it. And then everybody's like, oh my gosh, is this thing still going to happen? You know? Yeah, it was crazy.
Well, the payout must have been bonkers.
Oh, yeah. They must have... I mean, yeah, those guys get million, like, I don't know what's his name? Conor McGregor. Didn't he get like hundreds of millions or something for like a single fight? Just craziness.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
It's insane. But they put their health on the line.
Yeah. Anyway, I tuned in to watch Arcane and we ended up watching that instead. But man, is Arcane. We were talking about it a little bit last podcast. I've gotten into it now. And you're just watching it. You're going, this is just beautiful. Like it's a
masterpiece
well made
in terms of visuals.
Yeah, you're watching.
Now, did you watch season 1 or season 2? What are you watching?
Oh, season 2 right now.
Okay.
Yeah, we've watched season 1 back when it came out and was like,
I wasn't sure
with it. Yeah, story's fantastic, writing, acting, visuals, like everything is just so good. You're just watching it like I have no critiques of this show at all. It's just fantastic. Well, of course you do. Is it the user interface, Matt? Is that what you don't like?
Damn it. You're right. It's not the user interface. Can you think of what it might be?
Well, you mentioned last time that you didn't like the pacing. You thought it was moving too fast. Yeah.
It is. Yeah, I think it's moving too quick.
I'm not far enough in to feel.
Oh, you haven't finished the. Oh, okay. Oh boy.
Okay. So maybe we'll get to something.
No. So the critique, like it's seen like a slight flaw in like a masterpiece. Like it's not. It doesn't detract from it because I think I may have mentioned this last time. It's time progresses. Like time will just like months will go by, and you're like, we just witnessed something that happened 2 seconds ago for us, but for these characters, this was months ago.
Yeah.
Right. And so to see it go like from this to this, which could be a stark contrast, it can be a little like slap in the face, you know?
Yeah.
But because everything is so well realized and they've been able to make it still grounded, I don't really mind it at all because I'm so invested in the characters in the world. And what's so fun, and I think what the reason why they're able to succeed with this is that they're telling the story with like everything in it. It's not just like dialogue that tells the story. It's not just like the action, but it's like the world itself tells the story too.
Yeah. The world. Right? Yeah. That's what I noticed while watching it is like, you see all these little details on the side, on side characters, people in the background almost, and what they're wearing, what they're doing, what they're holding, what kind of interactions they're having that paint the world and the status that they're in and tell like a little bit of more of the story of how technology influences their life or what the magic around them, how that influences their life. And it's just so well done where everything's eye candy. And the more you let your eyes explore the scene, the more detail you come away with. Because it really is like everything in the shot is designed to tell you additional information about what's going on. It's just so masterfully crafted. That should get awards. I mean, like...
Oh, it will.
Each episode is like...
It will.
Well, I mean, it feels like a movie. Each episode feels like movie quality. I mean, and the only reason it doesn't feel like a movie is because they're not trying to tell you a complete story in an hour and a half or 2 hours or whatever.
They have like their little arcs, their little...
Yeah.
You know, so...
Yeah. But it's so good. It makes me want more. Like, obviously, I'm happy with them concluding a narrative in 2 seasons, but I'm like, okay, what are they? Pay some more money, Netflix. Buy more seasons. Like, this is fantastic
there will be
stuff.
More. Yeah, they've said that there will be more, but it will not be Arcane. If it might be called Arcane, but it's going to be in a different part of the world. It won't be the Jinx and Vi. Yeah,
that's cool with me.
I would love for it to be, I want their story and everything to be like wrapped up, but I'd love to see like cameos of these characters like showing up in, you know, like a grander conflict or something. But even if that's not the case, because I've fallen in love with these characters, they've done such a good job. I don't want to like not be in their world. But even if they do just go to these other areas, I'm okay with it. Because if it's the same quality, like just give me more. This is incredible.
Yeah, no, you're right. Some crossover cameo stuff would be fun where if it like took place 20 years after, 20 years before, whatever, and you kind of see some of these other characters when they're in a different environment. That'd be fun too. Yeah,
to see like Caitlyn show up, you know, maybe there's like a military conflict or something and she shows up because she's, you know, part of that.
Right.
She kind of fits that more than the other characters, right?
I don't know anything about actual League of Legends like lore outside of this show. Are there characters on there that you'd be like, oh man, how cool would it be if they did these guys' backstories?
Not any particular.
Who did you play? Who is your main?
I want to see Braum. Yeah,
I'll look him up.
He's a big cuddly man who has a giant shield and he's buff and he's just the nicest guy ever.
Okay.
Yeah. He's from the Frail. Freljord, I think is where they're located.
Freljord?
The Freljord.
Okay.
That's where things are really frozen. They've got Ash, Tryndamere, stuff like that up there. I'd love to see a frozen. I just likes the snow, and I'd love to see a story told there. That'd be dope.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love Braum.
Cool, man. Yeah. Gosh, there's just such good shows coming out with that. What'd you think of Frozen 2? Since you're such a Frozen guy.
I like the aesthetic of ice and snow and trying to survive the elements. Didn't see Frozen 2.
Oh, okay. Okay. No opinion there.
I would also like to see Garen and Lux. I think that'd be cool. They're kind of like your typical, like kind of paladin-esque knight in shining armor sort of vibe. So
cool.
I'd like that as well.
It wasn't too much more info gaming wise that I thought was super interesting this week, but there was like a tiny leak about the next Battlefield game saying that leaning is coming back to it. Like,
what a super awesome leak. Oh my God. Leaning. Holy crap.
I know. Isn't that going to influence your entire approach to the next game?
What a snooze. I mean, I'm excited for the next Battlefield and I want to know more, but like, hey guys, there's going to be leaning. Like, okay, cool. Great.
I know. Gosh, I hope they...
Which could literally be something they take out and like doesn't make it in, right? Like that's super like binary. They could just turn that on and off whenever they want.
Yeah. Do you like auto leaning or manual leaning?
Manual leaning.
Yeah. I think most people do. And honestly, if it didn't have leaning, I wouldn't care. Because I think
same.
Battlefield is a fast enough game where you don't need to slow peak corners and like really obscure your body as much as possible. Yeah.
Also, it does just kind of allow for more camping too, which isn't bad. I don't mind camping. I'm a camper. I'm literally the biggest rat ever. But if you can just hold a corner and because you're leaning the entire time and all you're showing is your face, more options become available to you.
Well, and Battlefield has always had the head glitch issue. So that would just exacerbate it essentially. People figuring out that weird little angle where you can't see them, but they can see you. You're like,
So I'm okay with it though. I'll take leaning in Battlefield.
There was also there was news that Xbox or Microsoft rather said that they were open to more acquisitions after Activision Blizzard, and we've been talking about Ubisoft basically potentially getting bought out, and you're like, no way could Microsoft get them because they'd for sure get Monopoly slapped around for that. But if Microsoft's saying that they're open to more acquisitions, and you're like, Ubisoft seems like they're on the table, that could be crazy, man.
I'd like them to actually develop and come up with stuff for their own, the ones that they own now, and they are slowly.
They did
focus on you for a while, and then maybe start gobbling some others up.
Well, so
prove yourself, Microsoft.
Phil Spencer, without concretely agreeing or saying for certain, very much alluded in a interview that they're really looking at de-exclusifying like most of their titles. And he even said, he didn't say that Halo was on the table. He just said that like it's certainly a possibility, and it was just too early for him to say whether or not the next title would be exclusive. It would be impressive, and I think it would give them, because that was the entire court case that Sony was like bringing against them for like, hey, if you give them Call of Duty, they're just going to make it exclusive, and then people who've been playing COD on PlayStation for the last decade aren't going to be able to do that anymore. And I think that argument will be too strong the next time around they try and acquire a studio. So them going, hey, look, we're just going to make all these titles non-exclusive might give them that leeway to start gobbling up all the other major game studios. Because realistically, if Xbox fails, but Microsoft still owns all these IPs, they're still a huge game publisher. Like they'll still have all those IPs. They'll still make tons of money selling those IPs on PlayStation and Steam and all the other game marketplaces. So yeah, I'm curious about it. Obviously, I don't like monopolies, and we've talked about this before. There's too many downsides to it. But for whatever reason, we're not stopping companies from just buying everything up. And I think in part it's because like with Ubisoft failing, like they're not going to sell for a low price. So no small company can buy them. So only mega companies can buy them.
Yeah, so that have already purchased all the other companies.
Yeah, so it's just sort of
the other companies that may have been able to buy, the other ones.
Yeah, so you get into this situation of like, do we force this corporation to just downscale into like kind of a nothing burger of itself, or do we let them get bought out by a megacorp? And any megacorp that's not a game publisher is probably not interested. So it's only going to be game publishing corps that have billions and billions and billions of dollars to spend. Right. Or millions, whatever. I don't know what they're selling Ubisoft for or what the price point would be. But
I'm sure it'd be billions.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's Assassin's Creed. That's worth a lot right there. What's their biggest...
They got way more than that. But yeah, basically everything Tom Clancy.
Yeah. Tons of stuff there. So it'll be interesting. But that's kind of it for the game news, unless you got anything you want to add.
Not really.
Yeah.
I don't add much anyways, so yeah.
Well, I mean, you play the games. I look up the news. Boy, am I excited for tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be I'm very curious to see what happens with this next game.
With this game that you can't talk about. Yeah.
This game that I can't talk about. I can't say anything. I'm very excited. Been waiting a long time. It's It's my hype. It's my center of hype right now.
Whatever that might whatever game that might be.
Whatever that might be. All right, let's wrap up the old Potteroonie there. Thank you all so much for dropping by the podcast. If you guys want to support us further, you can check out our Patreon. And you can watch the podcast live and join us for a post-podcast show where we will spill all the beans on what we think about things that are too risque to say on the normal podcast is when they'll come out there. And yeah, I think that's it. Now Matt's going to leave you with some super important life advice that is not derived from video games. Just
so kidding. If you find yourself on the battlefield, okay, modern military battlefield.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is going to be relevant since World War III is about to happen.
Whoa. Let's not push it too far. But if you do find yourself on the battlefield, remember that information is the most important, most valuable thing at your disposal. Because if you cannot see the enemy and they can see you, ripperino.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure you have plenty of snipers and put them on hold to fire so that they aren't spotted. And
Mm-hmm.
Good luck out there.
What do they call that? Like the 3Ds or something where it's like
the 3Ds?
Direction, distance, description or something like that?
I wouldn't know.
I don't know. Maybe that's me just like listening to a bunch of airsoft nerds talk about stuff. But it's like when you play with airsofters, they're like, yeah, this is what they do in the military. And then you're like, were you in the military? How credible is this information?
They want a role play.
Yeah. Let us know in the comments if that's a real thing or if I'm just making stuff up. But it sounds good. The triple Ds, double Ds, triple Ds. That's the info you need in combat. All right, everybody. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Take care.